Hello. It really does feel like the summer is behind us as we move towards the autumn. This year, autumn brings not just a change in the weather and the shifting colours of the leaves on the trees, but a change in the life of Christchurch. Now, as usual, many of our clubs and study groups and activities are about to start up again after the summer break, as are our Sunday clubs and children's youth ministries. But our new rector will also be with us in just over a month's time. Now, there's always a challenge to face at the start of a season. Do we return to the old familiar patterns from previous years, or do we face the changing season as a fresh start? Will we take up the opportunity to approach things differently, to seek new opportunities and devote more energy and passion to doing the things that we've done before? Well, these are certainly some of the things that will be occupying my prayers over the coming weeks. The lectionary reading for today from Mark chapter 7 challenges us to ask some of these very questions as Jesus encounters a Syrophoenician woman at a time when he was seeking rest for himself and his disciples. Let me read it to you. Jesus left that place and went to the vicinity of Tyre. He entered the house and did not want anyone to know it, yet he could not keep his presence secret. In fact, as soon as she heard about him, a woman whose little daughter was possessed by an impure spirit came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek, born in Syrian Phoenicia, and she begged Jesus to drive the demon out of her daughter. First, let the children eat all they want, he told her, for it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. Lord, she replied, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. And then he told her, for such a reply, you may go. The demon has left your daughter. And she went home and found her child lying on the bed and the demon gone. Now, as our passage opens, Jesus is seeking to spend some time alone in rest and reflection, peace and quiet away from the demands of ministry. And I can certainly identify with that. He goes to a town in a Gentile region where he is less likely to be followed by curious crowds or hostile authorities. But news of his healing ministry has reached even here. A woman from Syrian Phoenicia hears of his arrival. Her daughter is very sick, possessed by an impure spirit, as it tells us in this passage. Now, her condition would have been distressing not only for her and her family, but could also mean that the whole family has become isolated because of the fear the others would have about what they thought of as possession. The depth of this woman's distress and pain is highlighted by the fact that she is willing to break so many social norms to speak to Jesus. It was not considered acceptable for an unaccompanied woman to approach, let alone speak, to a man. Added to that, she is a Gentile and Jesus a Jewish teacher, which makes her behavior even more outrageous. And it's this behavior that prompts the form of Jesus' response to her petition. Now, to our ears, what Jesus says sounds harsh at best. How could he say such a thing? Now, scholars suggest that Jesus appears to be quoting a bit of Jewish folk wisdom, but that doesn't make what he says any less painful. As Matthew's account of this meeting explains, Jesus is referring to his mission remit to reach the lost children of Israel before sending his good news out into the rest of the world. And this is something that the disciples themselves have not yet understood. But this woman understands Jesus' metaphor. She knows enough of Jewish scriptures and beliefs to know that the children are the Jews. The bread is God's provision for them in all its many forms. She's also acutely aware of the insulting terms that many Jews have for outsiders, including dog. And though Jesus is not using that specific term, but rather a word used for a household pet, rather like a puppy dog, she's still, in this scenario, the dog, the one on the margins of things. And it must have been a very painful thing to hear. A little like Jesus' encounter with the woman at the well, when Jesus bluntly reveals that he knows that she's been married 5 times and that the man she's currently with is not her husband. Sometimes an encounter with Jesus is an encounter with reality in all its starkness. But we also know that in all things, God works for the good of those who put their trust in him. And the woman hears something else in what Jesus said, other than the apparent dismissal. In fact, she hears and understands something that even Jesus' own friends have not yet understood. He has come to the Jews first. And to her thinking, that means that God intends to reach everyone else too. And so she takes a chance and cleverly replies, "Lord, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs," picking up on Jesus' own household pet imagery. Now I can imagine, despite his tiredness, Jesus smiling at this point, smiling with delight and loving compassion as he tells her that her faith and her understanding have gained healing for her daughter, and that even as he speaks, she has been restored to full health. In this brief encounter, we see the God who listens, the God who cares about the lost, the hurting, the isolated, and the afraid. But we also see the God who pushes the boundaries of our faith, who tests us and our understanding of what he wants for us and for all people, because he wants us to grow and mature in faith. We see the Lord who challenges us to go deeper into our relationship with him, to be bold and persistent and humble in prayer. Now, though we haven't stood still during vacancy, there have been things that we've not been able to do because we needed to focus on matters in hand. We're about to enter a new season in the life of Christchurch. This story is a reminder that there is a hurting world out there, and that we will often meet it head on in unexpected ways and at unexpected or inconvenient times. We need to be prepared to have an answer for the questions, the needs that are presented to us. We need to be able to share with people the love of God and the hope and saving grace to be found in Jesus. This outsider's encounter with the Lord reminds us of who we are and what we are about. We are a community that seeks to reach the lost for Christ, and welcome and embrace the stranger and the outsider. None of us deserve a place at the table of the King. And yet God, in his mercy, does not leave us to scramble for crumbs, but welcomes us as his children to sit and dine with him at the heavenly banquet. This woman was right. Jesus came first to the Jews with the good news of the kingdom of heaven. But we are the proof that he didn't stop there. And it won't stop being good news that people need to hear until Jesus comes again.